to the show. Today's episode is for anyone who's ever looked at their life on paper and thought, why doesn't this feel as good as it looks? My guest is Uzma Abdullah, a life coach, real estate investor, and visionary behind Pop Coaching and Flip Forward Ventures. With over a decade of experience, she empowers women to break free from burnout and build intentional, purpose-driven lives. Uzma has walked the walk from corporate success to entrepreneurship to real estate and coaching. She's here to show us what it really means to evolve into our fullest potential. Uzma, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, dear, for having me on your show and for the wonderful bio. I appreciate that.
What have you been up to lately?
Similar to you, enjoying traveling with the family. We just got back from Costa Rica. It was amazing. It was all 16 of us. My parents took us and the whole family to Costa Rica for a week. It was beautiful. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Spring is always busy with, games and tournaments and all that fun stuff. Balancing all of that with life.
You were just mentioning your newfound fear of sharks.
Dear, it's funny because as I was in Costa Rica, it didn't happen here, but as I was at the beach, I would get very paranoid, and I never used to be this way about what's in the water. And it stemmed from my 40th birthday. We went to Mexico in Tulum, and I kid you not, I'm not exaggerating, but it was my cousin, myself, and my sister swimming in the beach. And all of a sudden, we see a shark swimming around my sister. Legit, the fin and all of it. It was like a scene from a movie. We had to yell, "Shark, shark, swim." And she swam, as fast as she could towards us. And we had to clear out the water. We just yelled "shark" to everybody else in the water. And we just saw these two sharks swimming in the shore. And it was crazy. It ended okay for us, thankfully. But it's a random weird thing now that I'm paranoid about, but I still try not to let that keep me from going to the beach.
It reminds me of this, my friend sent me the other day, this IG story where a group went shark cage diving in Mexico also, and then the shark literally went in the cage.
I saw that.
You saw that?
I saw that on the news. I was baffled.
So scary.
I couldn't believe it. I thought it was AI, and it was real. Crazy.
My friend who sent it to me because we had gone shark cage diving together. She sent it to me and I'm like, wow, we have, 8 of our 9 lives, maybe less.
These are the things with life, right? You don't want it to be one of those situations where it keeps you from enjoying, what you're passionate about, but it can play some tricks on your mind.
Well, we can't live life afraid, right?
Absolutely.
We got to keep
Absolutely.
Let's dive in. So you've helped many women pivot and rise. What was your wake-up moment? What was your one wake-up moment when you realized you needed to shift your life's direction?
It varies for many people, right? Sometimes people have a light bulb moment, and sometimes it takes a while to understand and to figure out, what am I really doing with my life? For me, though, there was a moment. It was right after I graduated college. I got my first job in corporate marketing, and I was there at that position for 2 years. Or that company for 2 years. I started after 6 months, I got promoted, which was great. I felt really excited that I'm doing all the things I need to do, climb the ladder. And as I went in towards, I think it was a year and a half into the role, and I went in and I did my other review and it went really well. My boss at that time, she made a comment and she said, "Hey, Uzma, you're doing great." She's like, "At this rate, I can see you where," I'm not going to name the name, "but where this person is, because this was my boss's boss." And I thought I should feel excited inside, that internal feeling of, wait, that's really cool. I'm being complimented. But to me, it was, wait a minute, that trajectory is not what I want. If I'm doing that, he had his wife's baby shower in the office because he would never be able to go home. So it wasn't even just as if it was a baby shower we threw for him in the office. It was, he was working all the time. He was there on the weekends. I commend him. A lot of people they like that routine. They like to work, and that's great for them. But for me, it was just not what I saw out of life, and that's not what I wanted. So that was the moment where I thought, wait a second, I'm not being fulfilled. I don't know what my purpose is here. So right after that, I literally went, I researched. I thought, I've always wanted to be a school teacher. So I researched programs, I applied to teaching college, got into Cal State Fullerton. I quit my job, went to school there, and then the rest is history. And I had pivoted careers a few times, but it was all to kind of, I think, get me to where I am now.
That's really powerful to recognize that, when something's not for you and to make that change, to make the 180. So many people listening have either faced that. I faced that. I've done a 180, switched my careers, or, people out there are thinking of it, but are like working in their jobs and like miserable. Having the strength to do that, that's really powerful. Was it really scary to do that?
I was just going to say, yeah, it wasn't easy. It was definitely scary. It was all those different feelings that you think of before you actually do something. All the doubts, all the fears come into mind. I come from a family of, a lot of like different professional backgrounds, right? So engineering, there's finance and all of that. So for me, I was kind of following a different trajectory, and I had to really allow myself to be authentic and say, if I chase something that is not me, what's my end all be all? It was not where I wanted to go. It wasn't bringing happiness to my life. And so, yes, it was very scary. It was difficult. I'm grateful I had supportive parents and I had a supportive boyfriend, now husband at the time. So, that worked well for me. I mean, at the end of the day, you go and you sleep at night, right? So it's all your own fears that really you have to kind of overcome. And so I did that because I think for me, it was like, what's on the other side? And I saw that and I didn't want that. So, the best I could do is give it my all and to chase something that really was bringing me excitement and some joy.
So then you started pop coaching.
I did. I started coaching as I realized. So, I became a teacher, but right after I became a teacher, I got married and I moved to Toronto. So I was in Toronto, Canada for about 10 years. During my time there, I actually was doing some not-for-profit management, some work there. I stayed away from corporate. I didn't love that life. So I went into some not-for-profit management where I combined the education background with my marketing. And there an opportunity arose. I started seeing the need and the joy from my boss at the time. She was coaching as well on the side. And so I was very inspired. I inspired so much to where I went to coaching. I did my coaching program. I mean, I had 3 kids in Toronto. So after the first child, I went back to work. After the second child, I said, I've got to do something that gives me some more excitement when I wake up, that connects really more with what I want to do. And for me was I really enjoy working with individuals. So I wanted to do something there and not kind of be behind a computer all day, right? That's where my role was at the time. So I went to my coaching program, and then I started working with a lot of youth and adolescents. And through that, I started getting opportunities to work with adults. And so I ended with having coaching clients that were looking for work-life balance, that needed to increase level of fulfillment and happiness. And I really, really enjoyed that piece. So for me, that was where like the passion kind of sparked. I thought, this is where I want to be. And it gives me a lot of autonomy and flexibility with time, which, as you know, being a mother is holy grail.
You talk a lot about living with intention, but what does that really look like for a high achiever who's already done all the right things, but still feels like something is missing? Maybe that feels empty or disconnected.
Yeah.
What do you say to someone who's outwardly successful, like successful to everyone else, but inside is feeling like they're struggling?
Yeah. So I would ask them and I would tell them, what is your intention? When you wake up every day, are you living life with intention? Are you at a point where you feel like your cup is full, in the sense where, as we go through things, like it's human behavior. We kind of go through our patterns. We have to do certain things. We have certain responsibilities we have to fulfill. We get caught into a profession where we realize all of a sudden we're working way up the ladder and we don't even realize why. So from the outside, you could be saying, hey, congratulations on that promotion. You're doing amazing. That's awesome. And from the outside, it feels like, hey, that person's doing great. From the inside, I think that person has to ask themselves, am I living my life with intention? What is my purpose here? Am I connected with what I want to do and what I'm doing on a daily basis? And I think that's really key. I think you have to almost kind of tune everybody out, including your colleagues, including family, including friends. And you have to be really honest with yourself. I think when you're honest with yourself, you can really start there and say, hey, am I really aligning with what I want to do? And so I think living with intention means that it's going back and asking yourself those hard questions. And they're not easy because a lot of times we kind of live in denial, and it's easier to just ignore that piece and kind of continue going on our day to day. So what I would say is you start there. You just really ask yourself, am I waking up every day? And look, I'm the first one to say that not every day is, all butterflies and rainbows, right? We're going to do many things that we don't want to do, but are required of us. And that's okay. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to if we are in a profession that we're waking up for, we feel energized and we feel challenged and excited in a way that makes us feel full. then great. Even if you're putting in a little bit more work and you feel that, wait, am I getting that balance? It's not about that. It's about making sure that you feel like you're living, not that you're dead inside. So I think you got to ask yourself that, and that's where you start.
So a daily check, like a check-in, like a self check-in.
Absolutely. And the daily check-ins, remember, I mean, and myself included, right? The days that I don't have that are so great, or that days that I feel like I did everything for everybody else and didn't do it for myself, I had those days. Even as a coach, I remind myself the importance of having certain routines that are important for me. But then there are days where all that goes out the window. And all of a sudden you have a sick child at home. And all of a sudden, your husband's traveling at the last minute and you've got, you're shuffling kids around. But I think you have to go back and you have to ask yourself, it's okay to have those days here and there. That's life. But on a continual basis, are you doing more things that you enjoy? Are you adding things to your life that make you feel energized? Or are you adding things to your life that make you feel heavy and stressed? And so I would say the daily check-ins are really important, but just know that it's okay to have certain days that are a little bit more challenging. And to remember that when you wake up, it's day one, not one day. And so I kind of live by that.
So besides doing that, besides self check-ins, sound like super important tool in the toolbox. What if someone's just stuck, and they're just kind of like an autopilot? How do you get them out of their routine? How do you get them to realize and shake them out of, I don't know, whatever it is that they're doing, bad habit or self-deprecating behavior?
Well, the first key is there has to be awareness, right? And so I think oftentimes people are just not aware. They are not aware that they're stuck in these bad habits. They feel that those habits for them, that they have to do, that's their responsibility, that's going to give them the next thing. So I think the first part is having awareness, and it's really ensuring that there is someone around you, whether it's a support group, whether it's, an accountability partner, it could be a coach or not, but there's somebody that has to be checking in, because I think when we live life on autopilot, unless you are really aware of those feelings that we just talked about, it's really hard to wake yourself up. Because I would ask that person is, when is the last time you felt alive? When's the last time you felt energized? If they don't have even time to talk about it, right? There's a bigger picture. There's a more bigger root issue that needs to be addressed. And I think it's allowing ourselves, giving us that time for reflection to understand what are the things in our life right now that are suiting you well and what's not. And I think you got to start there, because I think when you don't have awareness, it's like it can be talking to a brick wall, because that person, they just feel like, well, you don't understand. I don't have the time. We all have choices. We all have 24 hours in the day. It's how we prioritize, how we make the time, what we feel is priority. That's just the human nature. That's the way our brain works. And so sometimes we create busy work for ourselves to avoid other things, right? Sometimes we don't journal or we don't reflect because we're afraid of what's in there. So I would say that awareness is critical for that person who might be struggling, is to get that help, to get someone, even if it is a friend, to say, hey, I'm realizing that, I feel burnt out, or I realize that, or what does burnt out look like to you, right? And having those conversations first.
I think one of the other things also for people is that they can carry a lot of baggage, maybe with the beliefs that they perhaps grew up with, or external beliefs of from parents or, peers about being successful. What's something maybe you have done to kind of break yourself away from that, from the idea of being what's this overall external meaning of success, and then to get yourself to feeling aligned and purposeful with feeling you are successful and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing?
I love that question, because it ties into your roots, right? And I think that's so important, because that makes us who we are. And I do think it's essential. I think when people get high level advice from someone that you don't know or that doesn't know you, it's hard, because you're right. There are preconceived notions. There's culture, there's parents, there's family. There's a lot of that we have that are ingrained in us. For me, I'll be honest, growing up, right, and culturally, it was always that there were certain professions that equated to respect. Money meant respect, and freedom was all about how much money you have. You have money, you have freedom. That was growing up. It was this association with that. And, boy, was I wrong, right? I think now, and again, this is so much work in progress over time, but understanding that's not the case. And it is still, there are times, again, it's not perfect. There are times where there will be conversations and someone will perk up and there'll be respect towards someone who earns the most amount of money. And I've let go of a lot of that. Because to me, like my definition of success is really happiness, is to gauge where you are. Like if you're looking at your stress level, if you're looking at how you manage your time, if you're looking at, are you around the people you love? Am I given the time and the autonomy to have the freedom to do hobbies, to travel, to do the things that I enjoy? While some of those things may require money, not all of it does. So for me, like it's flip the script, right? It's not money equals freedom, it's time equals freedom. And so I've had to really over time work that like in my mind. And the way I've done that also is when I wake up, not every day, but if there are moments that are frustrating or difficult, I go back to, am I living life with intention? And have I chosen this life? Because I think that the crazy thing about humans, right, is when we take control, when we take accountability for our own actions, something in our mind goes off so that it comes from me. If my husband chose this path for me, I could always have someone to blame. I could always say, hey, like the grass was greener, right? But when I know that I've chosen this life for myself, that's where the beauty lies, because then you can go back and say, well, you know what, there are days, dear. I mean, look, as entrepreneurs, we're in this now, right? There are days where I'm like, do I want to go on LinkedIn and apply for a full-time job? Because that sounds so much better than, the real estate market being volatile or not having stability in a paycheck. And that's okay. That's what I try to tell my clients. It's okay to look at that and not to feel like, oh, did I make a mistake? No, go explore that. If that's something that you're feeling, explore that and see where it gets you. And for me, when I even start exploring and I start looking at descriptions of these full-time jobs, I think, wait, no, there was a reason I chose this path. And there's a reason why I am so passionate when I talk about this versus when I'm looking for a job. Taking those examples, I really feel like all the cultural associations and all the growing up, those associations it requires work and effort to allow your brain to tell yourself differently. It's wired one way and you have to rewire it. And I think when you're around also supportive group of people, it's really helpful. There's toxic energy and then there's good energy. And so you want to be around that because it's all about what you believe and what you feel inside. And I think that plays into how you are in general in a day-to-day, right? Your happiness level and your family is impacted by that too.
You've got this amazing blend of experience and diverse backgrounds. So you're both a real estate investor, life coach, business coach, sprinkle in past cupcake entrepreneur.
Yes.
And those are all totally different, but in a way also connected. Like how has your life coaching, business, and helping people connected, like how is that connected?
I am so passionate about real estate. What ended up happening was, I have Flip Forward Ventures it's an all cash kind of a syndication, but it's an all cash fund. We basically raise private capital and we deploy it amongst flip projects, primarily in Dallas, but we have some in Atlanta right now as well. Sorry, Buffalo. And in California. It's great because the way it started was so organic. It was also through just, hey, I love real estate. How do we get involved in this? And so it started from, buying our first house and being able to make a couple of different moves that allowed us to do what we're doing today. And so I've always been intrigued. My dad's been in real estate, growing up. He was always a mentor and inspiration to me. And so that's always been something that I've always wanted to get into. I think I had this association when I started 15 years ago that you really have to have a ton of money to get into real estate. And we did it creatively. We didn't do that. We didn't have, $1 million in the bank and then bought real estate. We were just very creative with how we bought our first property and then our portfolio over time. And so that passion's always been there. And when I moved back to LA, when I moved back to Orange County, we had some opportunities. And, my husband is not just my best friend, my business partner. He also has this great vision around there's this need in our community for what people can't. They want to buy in cash. They don't want the debt. We have the knowledge and the network and the connections in Dallas. Let's marry the two and find a way to invest other capital into these homes and allow people to get into real estate that normally wouldn't be able to get into. And so it's worked really well. And so I started seeing, as we've grown this business, I would go to events, and I'm talking about girls' events, like girl parties and family parties. And I would find myself in the corner a lot with these females that would just be picking my brain about real estate and having conversations around hey, I know what you're doing, or I've seen what you're doing, and I'm looking at buying, or I'm looking at getting a second home, I'm looking at doing an Airbnb. That's where I would just be so excited to talk to them about. And for me, I'm like, I don't know what my kids are doing in the side over there. I don't know what time, but I would just enjoy having these conversations with women. And it would be really exciting because I find that over 90% of our investors, I manage all the investors, and over 90% of them are male. So it's a male dominated industry in that, and most of the males in their household are making the decisions on finances. And I've been very fortunate. My father taught us at a very young age about money, all things that come with money. So we've had that knowledge growing up. I feel that it's so important for females to be involved in their finances at home, to be understanding what are you doing for the future? How are you saving? Just on a day to day. And so I would have those conversations as well around finance. When I moved from Toronto here, I had some of my book of business for my clients, but then that kind of went away and I focused a lot more on the real estate portion here. But in the back of my mind, I really always missed working, especially with females one-on-one. And then this kind of reignited that part. So when I talk about like reigniting passion and purpose, for me, that's what was sparking it. I was starting to go to these events and I'd go to conferences and female conferences. That's where, a lot of excitement and joy was sparked. And so I thought, let me marry the two. Let me revamp my coaching business again and really work with females looking for fulfillment, looking for purpose. Also, many of them come with the desire to grow their real estate business or even start. And so I'm so passionate about that for me, it was just a very easy blend. And that right now the networking that I'm doing is a lot of female investors. And so it was just a really great blend of the way they married. And the one thing I'm really weak at is sales. Like I'm not a salesperson by nature. So for me, what kept me from really kicking it off was I don't know how to sell myself. And I never really wanted to. So it's kind of through referral and through word of mouth and, now starting to kind of kick off again, that coaching business and taking it to the next level.
Well, Uzma, in my opinion, the best salespeople don't sell.
Yes.
They bring value, and that's very attractive, and you don't have to sell yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. I need that. Thank you for the reminder, dear.
I wanted to go back to burnout because you touched on being burnt out. When you talk to successful women or successful people that you're coaching, what's your take on hustle culture? Because there's so much out there, and you look on Instagram, it's like there was this one viral Instagram. I forget what his name was, but it was like wake up at 3 a.m. and cold plunge like for I don't know how long. Just ridiculous. Like he's 6 hours awake or before the actual day starts. What's your take on this hustle culture? How do you coach clients to deal with that and to rethink that?
It is so relevant in today's day and age, especially with social media. I think I heard it at a conference once on stage. A speaker was saying being rich on Instagram is like being rich in Monopoly, right? When you're playing Monopoly. And I'm like, it's so true. It's this life you're living that you want to portray to the world, and you're doing it to portray to others. So it goes back to intention. You have to connect with that. You have to ask yourself, what is your intention? If my intention is specifically to please myself, those I love, and those around me, then you're tuning out all the other noise. And I think the second you start getting really mixed up and you can't separate the two, it's a little bit of a gray place to be in. You really want to become aware of your feelings and you start thinking, and it's okay to answer and say, hey, I'm realizing my intentions are really to please others or to, look at like the whole fake it till you make it and come off that way. And so it's okay to have that because if you admit that, that's a great first step to realize, okay, now what do I need to do to actually, because that's not filling my cup. That's not bringing me happiness. So I would say to those who are really in that hustle culture is like being real with yourself. You've got to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Are you doing it to cover up something else? Okay, what is it that you're covering up? Is it your relationship? Is it your friendship? Is it the need for having friends? Like if you're not social and on Instagram, you want to show that you're social, you got to address the root cause. And I think that is really key because with hustle culture and with social media, it really is taking blips of people's life and it's not really the full picture. And we know that, right? I think it's like the younger generation right now that's a little scarier. I mean, I'm sorry, I said we know that. No, even for adults, it's confusing. It's confusing, like you said, right? There's someone that says, hey, go out and cold plunge at 3 a.m. And now all of a sudden, as adults, we feel like, what am I not doing right with my life? Do I need to set my alarm for earlier? And why am I not feeling that energized when I wake up to go in a cold plunge? So I do think you have to go back to what brings you joy. And I look at it like for me, I have my non-negotiables. I know for me, I'm my best self when I can get up in my morning and I can go, I drop my kids off their schools. And then I can go to Orange Theory. Like that to me is a non-negotiable. I got to go and then I got to come home and make myself a cup of coffee and sit on my couch. And that's real, right? That's keeping it really real. And that's not sexy or exciting, but that brings me joy. So simple things that I go back to, even catching yourself at little moments. It's when you are doing things and you're capturing social media and putting it on social media real quickly before you post, ask yourself that question. What's the intention, right? If the intention is to share with the world, and that's great. I think that's beautiful. I share my travels and I like to share tidbits of that. But if it is, I want people to know I traveled first class, or I want people to know that, catch yourself and be more mindful of that, because that's not going to bring you the real core happiness that I think everyone searches for. It's about mindset. I mean, I know, there's the mindset is, people say it's cliche, right? Growth mindset, but it really, really is. Like if you wake up in the morning and tell yourself, I'm going to be tired, I got a few hours of sleep. Or if you wake up in the morning and you say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a really rough day because I know I have to do 20 different things for the kids and I'm just going to be burnt out. Guess what? You're going to go in feeling it. That's one thing that for me, I've worked on really hard over the past few years.
Yeah, I think it's especially important, as an entrepreneur, the growth mindset and really like the grit and like really mentally exercising your brain and getting that strong. It's you. Because
Absolutely.
being an entrepreneur is hard, right? It's going to
So
bring out all the demons and all the things that you think you're not good at. And, you might get a lot of rejection on your path to success.
And being around those with positive energy, they always say that, right? Is like we are a reflection of the 5 closest people we are around, we hang out with. And so I do think that is really important. Growing up, you go through so many different types of friends and personality traits. And that's great because it gets you to where you are. And as you get later stage in life, you understand who you want to be around with and who those that might have certain traits or behaviors or habits that are not serving you well. And as an adult, I think it can be easier or harder, right? To kind of disconnect with that. You have to have that awareness though first. I really do believe that if you're not aware, you're going to go through life not breaking those patterns, and you may not catch yourself like, wait a second, why am I not so passionate? Where do those hobbies go that I used to do back in the day? And I never made time for them, right? And so I try with my clients to remind them to add a little bit more of joy every day in their life. It could be literally from drinking another cup of coffee to going for a bike ride to going for an extra walk, but it's just adding joy, because when we are happier inside, it is a domino effect in everything else we do, in our careers, in our relationships, any aspirations we have, in our own self-development. It really is a domino effect.
So here's a question. You've been a life coach for a while now. It's been over a decade. And so what's one thing that we can tell the audience that in coaching in general, what it can't do to set that expectation?
It's very important that people come in with coaching, understanding that coaching is about moving forward. So if you are living in the past, it really is not going to serve you well. There's a difference between, for example, those who have a specific area in the past that's been haunting them. It's not allowing them to move forward. And they might think, I need the coaching. And there's an element where you could use both. But I do think sometimes therapy is really important to work on past, because when you have something that's coming up or that's not allowing you to be your best self because there's something there's whether trauma, whether there's some kind of scarring that's there that's not allowing you to shift your mindset, that's really important to work on too. And that's mental health. Right? Mental health is really critical these days and now more than ever, because there's so many distractions and there's so many things like social media. And so I do think that people, when they come in, have to understand that coaching is about moving forward. Coaching is about holding yourself and allowing me to hold them accountable to their own goals. It's not me creating a goal. It's them setting their goals and me helping them understand how to get there, right? Helping them navigate the journey. Trust me, there's so many times when I'm with my clients where they're talking and there's a solution and they're almost saying it. And I want to say, oh, this is the solution. And I have to bite my tongue, because the second I say that, it's not something that they created. It's something I've created. And it doesn't say, my job is to help them understand that that's a solution without me saying it. So asking those powerful questions, going back to what they were saying, having them reframe it into a statement or into a goal and saying, okay, are we comfortable with this? And so I think coaching is not meant for me to be doing all the talking. It's me doing the listening and asking powerful questions to help you understand how to live your best self. Again, going back to those questions about what excites you, what energizes you, where are you stuck? How do we get from from here to there. It's moving forward. So I think that's a really big, a big one that, people need sometimes clarification or just to get the knowledge of what coaching is and what it's not.
So you coach many, many people. And so is there like a recurring theme, mindset block that you see often with the people that you're coaching that are successful entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. So I would say there's probably a couple things. So when you say mindset, it's funny because mindset really is one of the first ones that comes out of my mind. It's that when people have this mindset that I can change, that I'm willing to change, I'm willing to put the work in, versus I'm never going to be able to get there because this is just not me. I'm not born this way. This is not innate. You see, the difference in the conversation is the mindset. It's if you're talking to someone who's saying, okay, I'm willing to put this time in. I'm willing to make these changes in my life because I want to see change. And I'm also willing to say no to certain things. I'm willing to change my behaviors to get where I want to get to. Versus, you just having that block in your mind that I'm not going to get there. And so one is mindset, I think in general, like when you come in with that mindset and you're coaching and you have a coaching partner, you have a coach, that is everything. That's where people grow the most. When they're just open. Okay. That's one. Second is the consistency. So there's maintenance involved, right? It's like losing weight. You can lose the first 5 pounds and then what? Right. So it's creating behavioral life changes that allow you to stay on the journey you've chosen to get to where you're to get your goals. So first is mindset, having that positive mindset, that growth mindset. Second is being consistent in your actions. Doing it 1 month and not doing it the other is not consistency. You need to prove to yourself that you've given it this much time. I'm giving this 6 months. I'm allowing myself, you have to give yourself some grace because there will be some trials and tribulations along the way that might delay things. But again, the next day you wake up and it's day one, not one day. You don't stop. I've seen those people who are the most successful. They're really good about keeping consistent habits in their life. The third quality is trusting the process. It's not overnight. Trusting the process is going to serve you better because if you don't, what happens is you go 5 steps forward and then 4 backwards. And that's okay because if you've come a little bit forward, that's great. But when you really see the true progress and you really see the magic happening is when you just trust the process and even if you inch a little bit more every day, every month, and knowing that there is an end all goal. But when I say that there's an end all goal, it's also trusting the journey and enjoying the journey. I think that's what people forget. They focus so much on the goal, they forget that the journey is actually where the behaviors change. And that's truly what you're going to hang on to, because say, for example, you get that first investment property and that's your goal and you get there, you got to make sure that you have understood what that journey was like. If you want to scale it, if you want to repeat it, that's where you've done all your learning. The goal is the end. And that should hopefully be the start to a new lifestyle, good behaviors, good changes. So I would say those 3 things. It's mindset, consistency, and is trusting the process.
That's really good. I love that. So let's zoom out a bit because one of my favorite questions to ask is about what would we tell our younger selves, like in a self-reflection. So if you could coach your younger self during your crossroads in life, what would you say to her?
Oh my goodness. I think about this all the time because I have 2 daughters. I would say a few things, right? One is embrace this time in your life. And, that's something I remind myself of, dear, all the time, because as we go through life, we are always trying to get to the next thing. And, when I was 16, when I was 21, we thought we had stress then, right? We thought we had responsibilities then. And whatever was happening, it was like the end of our life or the end all be all. And so I would tell that girl, embrace this time in your life, enjoy this part because things change and it's not a bad thing. But if you don't enjoy this time, you'll never be able to presently live in that moment. And sometimes I think that I struggled with my body back in when I was in college. That was something that I always struggled with. And when I look at it now, I'm like, my gosh, I'm a mother of 3 and I've learned to embrace who I am. But if I looked at my, 20-year-old self, I would say, enjoy that, right? Enjoy that and be happy with where you are. That also is a skill. Is to be able to live in the present moment. The second thing I would say is really, really important that you create hobbies for yourself and that you enjoy and you build skills. So I say that because I look at the generation today and I think about all the things that have changed, right, from when we've grown up. And I think about how things are quickly changing. And I look at the older generation too. And one thing I see over and over again is that those who have those hobbies, they're happier. They're spending their time right? Whether they're retired or close to retirement, or they're in our age group and they can do something for themselves that brings them happiness, right? Whether it's going horseback riding, whether it's enjoying the gym time, whether it's swimming at the pool, whatever it might be, but do that and don't let that go, because life gets busy and you forget about that. And then when you become a mother, you really forget about what's important to you, right? And that's normal transition. So I would say is remind that child. And then I would say take Excel classes. I was just telling somebody the other day who came over and he's trying to get my husband to help him be a mentor for him. He said, what's something that I could do? He's like, because one of the things I'm doing is taking Excel classes. And I was like, you smart child. He's in ninth grade. He's in high school, 10th grade. And I'm like, that just kind of sparked something in my eyes. I was like, that's really, really great. Because for me, I've learned it organically because I work with investors and I work with numbers and I'm teaching myself. But, going back in time, if I had spent some of that time, when you have so much time when you're in your 20s, I would say is build some of those skills that you can use for life. All of our spreadsheets when we're doing our portfolios and managing all this, like that would be valuable. To just have that much more knowledge. And knowledge is power. It'll never go away. AI, I love AI, but my spreadsheets are my spreadsheets.
Yeah, I had spreadsheets all the time. I used to be a program manager. Now I'm a real estate investor and I still stare at spreadsheets.
You still scare them all day long. It's all about the numbers.
And all about the numbers. Exactly.
It is.
But ChatGPT does help.
ChatGPT is a good buddy.
It's not perfect. Not perfect.
It's not perfect. And spreadsheets just allow you to have, fly with your own wings.
Before we wrap, let's do one of my favorite things. Quick rapid fire, just for fun question.
All right. Let's do it.
All right. A book that changed your perspective.
So I would love to say Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I'm sure you get that a lot if you're talking to real estate investors. So I won't use that. I would say there's two. Okay, real quick, Ikigai. So Ikigai is it's like that whole, the Japanese idea, right, of no retirement. It's like the core happiness. And if you study Ikigai, it's an amazing model and philosophy that I try to remind myself of. Easy book to read too. And the second one is The 4-Hour Workweek. I love that book because it really teaches you about, again, freedom of time.
Okay, morning ritual you swear by. And don't say wake up at 3 a.m.
Oh gosh, no, I am not a morning person. I am a late night owl actually. So I sleep very late and I wake up when I have to for the kids. But my morning ritual for me, what really is like what I look forward to, again, super simple, not like sexy, not exciting, but I need to do my Orange Theory after I drop the kids off. And then I come home. Again, I used to go out to Starbucks all the time and buy coffee. I thought that was nice, but honestly, my favorite thing to do is I come home after the gym, I make my own coffee and I get on on the sofa and I literally have the freedom to work from my sofa and I'm checking my email with my coffee in my hand. So it's an experience, but I just need it every morning. That energizes me.
Okay. Best advice you've ever received.
My dad's famous, this is not his saying, but he always tells me you can have anything, but you can't have everything. And it is so true. Definitely words to live by.
One bold risk that paid off.
Buying our first house and then being able to do everything from there. And it was the hardest thing in the world. I don't know how much money we saved up and put everything into that house. And it was the best decision of our life.
What does wealth mean to you today?
It means having the freedom to choose how I want to spend my days and being able to create that nest for our future. Wealth to me just means being able to have the time freedom and financial freedom as we grow our portfolio and as we have a family, we know, how we want to spend our time in the future, but also that anything can change. And so wealth also means being able to live in the moment and also enjoy your hard work today. So it's not like the same retirement at 70 where you're then traveling at 70. We try to do as much as we can today because we really don't know tomorrow whether the health will be there or not. But for now it is. So that's important to us.
Okay. Well, Uzma, thank you for this very powerful conversation. Thank you for being so open. This is such a great conversation.
It only does people justice, I feel like, when we're open and vulnerable and we really are real, right? We're real with ourselves. But it's a matter of just being able to just think about life the way you want it. And that's what I would say. I would say for many, I tell people about purpose. And if I could leave with anything, it's like helping people understand that purpose is not like a lightning bolt all of a sudden that just appears. It is actually a few moments over time of that light bulb going off and creating it over the things that give you passion and joy. And so that's really important, is like just understanding what your values are and what brings you joy and just adding more to that in your life. And so I'm hoping that I can have that impact on some of your audience and be able to share that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay, to everyone tuning in, take a moment after this episode to check in with yourself. Are you living a life aligned with your true self and purpose? And if this hits home for you, share this episode with someone who's been hustling but not healing. If you want to connect with Uzma, we'll drop our links in the show notes. Until next time, keep investing, keep exploring, and keep creating a life worth roaming. See you soon. Thanks for joining today's episode of Invest in Rome. If you found value in this episode, please share it with a friend. New episodes dropping weekly. Like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Dear No. Keep investing, keep roaming, and keep living the life you deserve.